Welcome to the Union Weekly Insider. I'm Allison Meyer, and this is the official podcast for the Union Weekly out of Cal State Long Beach. I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you what it takes to put together a weekly publication. Next door neighbors. Sometimes they're great, and sometimes they can make your life a living hell. Thankfully, the Union Weekly has some of the best neighbors around. K-Beach and College Beat, the radio and video branches of ASI Student Media. Their offices are located directly across from the Union Weeklies on the first floor of the University Student Union. On any given day of the week, it's not surprising to find members of K-Beach or College Beat hanging out in the Union Weekly office. However, according to Editor-in-Chief Alex Ramos, the branches of student media weren't always as friendly as they are now.
I had no working capacity with College Beat and K-Beach. I knew they were there. I acknowledged them from time to time, but I never actually went over and talked to them for whatever reason.
Thankfully, in the recent past, things have changed for the better.
That's definitely changed now because they're always over here pretty much every day because we have the biggest office, so they're always over here. But sometimes we'll go over there and we'll say what's up if we see them in the office. It's more likely for College Beat than K-Beach because K-Beach is like a ball of like just business going on every single day. So we tend not to go in there, but if we do see sumo through the window, we'll wave hi. But yeah, we all just interact. We hang out. A lot of the times we'll talk about work, but it's starting to become more of a thing where we'll just talk about any random old thing. The other day we were in here watching a Watch Mojo video, the top 10 things you shouldn't Google, and that was like a true bonding experience. You only do that with real friends, and so I consider Sumo and Michael to be real friends now because of that. Other times we'll be in here, we'll play Smash Bros. We'll talk about going to the movies or just getting lunch in general. Are you hungry? Let's go get lunch. Let's hang out. It's cool.
With convergence of the three branches of student media on the horizon, there's no better time to meet the managers of K-Beach and College Beat. I'll let them introduce themselves.
I am Fernando J. Avila. I am the general manager of K-Beach Radio. I'm a fourth-year history student.
Hi, I'm Michael, the chief executive producer of College Beat Television. I am a film major and a fourth year.
Let's start with Fernando and what his duties are.
Short version.
Yeah, this has kind of been tough for me to answer. But the managers outside of me are the ones who run the station. I mainly just make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, that they're doing their job, and then I'm like the liaison for administrators. So I deal with with full-timers and ASI admin just to represent K-Beach on that more professional level.
Michael's list of duties was a bit more extensive.
I am in charge of a lot of the questions. I have answers for a lot of the questions people ask, oh hey, how are we gonna post this, or when, how distribution calendars should work, how specific questions on this specific episode of LB Sketch or this episode of Late Night Long Beach. I look at all the final cuts and I say oh, you could do this a little better, you could edit it like this, the sound's off in this part or something like that. I'm the last eyes that see it before it gets put out in the world. And then I'm also there in the pre-production side, hearing an idea. Sometimes a producer will come to me and be like, hey, somebody wants to make a sketch about death, and then they're like, can we do this? And I'm like, I get to say whether or not we get to do a sketch about death or whatever the controversial idea is. What else? I guess I'm the closest to the top of ASI that's in charge of our branch of programming. I am involved with talking to them about how they feel we are running, how I feel we're running. I tell them monthly, and then I'm also in charge of budgeting. I get to say where our money goes. That's a whole thing. It's hard.
They both got involved in their respective branches of media in different ways. Fernando was recruited through a friend.
So my friend Brandon, who more popularly known as DJ B-Rock, he had performed some noontime concerts for K-Beach, and they were really pushing him to get his own show. And so it was just one day, it was just this random call. He called me and he was like, hey, do you want to be on the radio? I was like, yeah, duh. And you know, we came in on a Thursday, and we got trained for maybe 45 minutes in both our production and our on-air studio, which is, if you go through them, that's a lot to take in 45 minutes. And then the very next day, they're like, all right, go, fly away, do your show. And we had absolutely no idea what we were doing. But shout out to Christian Wiseman, who was our board op for a very long time. And that's kind of how I got my start at K-Beach. It's the jump off with DJ B-Rock.
Michael found College Beat through his major.
So every spring, the film department has like a little mixer for the students to like get interested in like film and like see stuff. And it was my freshman year, and it was spring, and I hadn't done anything with my life my freshman year. So I was like, I'm gonna do something to better my career. So I went to this mixer, and they had like alumni who were like cool and doing things like working on like the CW and like working as actors and whatnot. And there was like a lunch. So I was eating lunch, and I was like, I'm gonna be an adult and talk to people I don't talk to. So I talked to this girl, and she was like, hey, I'm like the marketing assistant for this place, College Beat. It's on campus. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, you make videos and stuff for fun. And I was like, that sounds really cool. And she was like, yeah, but it's over for the semester. So, because it was like May. And I was like, oh, okay. I'll go first thing next semester. And so next semester I go to the first meeting, and then I just get like super involved, and then I like talk to like the people who were working at the time, and then they were like all super cool, and then we went out to go eat, and then they were like, you're cool, and then I got in. It was like an initiation. I got in.
Becoming the boss of anything takes time. For Fernando, it was a pretty straightforward trek through the ranks.
So after volunteering for a while, I volunteered for a long time. And then I started getting pretty into like the actual workings of the radio station, and lots of shout outs. Shout out to Jake. I was his intern for a while, who was our program director at the time. And I was doing little things, like I was keeping track of the shows. I was making sure we had show logs for like the host to sign. And that was just the way we kept attendance of our shows. So I was doing that for a little bit, and then I kind of branched out, and became a programming assistant, and I was fully in charge of the FM programming. So I made sure shows ran when they were supposed to. There was new shows, there were uploads, and from there it was kind of, things just started to happen. And Trey, who was the general manager, 2 general managers ago before me, he kind of approached me and was like asking me different questions about where I saw myself with K-Beach in the future. And I was like, oh, like I see myself doing programming or production, because those were the positions I had worked with. And then he was like, oh, well, have you thought about my job? And I was like, oh, me? And it was, that was when the seed was really planted for GM. And after that, I was just like following him around, learning everything I could about how the station functions, like professionally with administrators, the tech side of everything, how the broadcast science basically runs. And then I competed with Jay for the position, who was the general manager before me. He beat me out, but I was his assistant general manager. So when he stepped down, I officially took over the position.
On the other hand, Michael's process of landing in his position was more roundabout.
Your guess is as good as mine. So I worked as a producer, like running a show for the first year, and then after that, the show was kind of like went away because we didn't feel like we needed it anymore. It was like a narrative comedy sketch show, but then we made a sketch show in itself. So we were like, let's just get rid of the other show. So then I started this thing called Studio 112, where it's like you get the chance to make whatever you want to make with College Beat, and we'll help in any way that we can. So me getting in charge of that gave me like a different leadership role than just like a producer, because I was in charge of like helping people get their ideas, you know, helping people like form how they wanted to pitch their idea, and then ultimately like getting their ideas. So then Nicole, the oldest chief executive producer, was leaving because she got an internship that she had to go to, and then she needed somebody to take over for the semester that she was going to be gone. And I had been with her, I was her intern when I first started, so she like knew me, and I had been there the longest compared to other people, and I was also graduating, so it was like a good slide-in fit, just a semester, you get this job. And I had always been asking her questions about like what she was doing, because I was just interested, not that like I wanted to steal her job. I was just like, hey, like, how did you do this? Or like, how are you doing that? Because she would like, you know, get like frustrated or something and like want to talk to somebody, and I'd just be there and she'd like talk to me about like what she's doing. So then I knew some of the like ins and outs of the things that you would have to do as chief executive producer. So then that's why that's how I got it.
In the future, Michael hopes to stay within the film industry.
Future aspirations are a mix of things. I think like this whole industry is really complicated, so it's kind of like you can go in trying to do one thing and end up on another, which I'm like excited for. But if I'm gonna like say like what I want to go into and then ultimately become, I really want to ultimately become like the writer of like TV or film. I think that although in like, you know, the actual filming of things, sometimes scripts change and stuff, like ultimately the script writer, the screenplay writer has so much power in what they say and like how a story is told, because you can tell a story about anything any one way. But it's really like the person who wrote the story is telling people like what they want them to get out of it. Like I have teachers who've told me like the most important thing is like the theme, because that's what makes your story yours. Mm-hmm. And like I just like said one day, like I want to be able to use like film to like tell people things that I want to say, because I'm a narcissist.
As for Fernando, his future doesn't lie in a radio station, but in a classroom.
So
Where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually enrolled in the credential program here at Long Beach. So I'm hoping that after this spring and in the fall of 2017, I will be teaching high school history.
Since they're both graduating this semester, they only have so much time to leave their mark. Fernando hopes he leaves behind a new attitude.
Man, well, I hope I really like establish this this culture of not being able to be pushed around. That's something that I feel has sort of been done by default, and just that we haven't necessarily, as students, been taken so seriously by quote unquote professionals or full timers. But just to be able to leave this standing in that while we are students, we're still going to stand up for what we feel the radio should be and how it should be represented, and just that culture of not taking anything, to put it nicely, without other words.
Michael, however, isn't entirely sure what his legacy might be.
You watch Game of Thrones? I think there's gonna be a definite like, oh hey, he just stepped in as Hand of the King, and then walked out. That's what he did. That was him. That's what he did. That's what I feel like my legacy is gonna be. No, I think like, I think like in terms of the future of like student media here, I think it's gonna be, I don't know how much like I'm gonna get credited with like working on these things, but I'm here having these conversations with Alex and Fernando and like a bunch of people about what is becoming of student media. Like if it wasn't me, it would have been Nicole, and me and Nicole talked about like the ways that she would want it to happen, so I'm kind of emulating her and how I want it to happen. So I think like the legacy, I guess, is like I'm like there shaping what the future is. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm gonna be like, that's a weird question. That's a really creepy question. Like, I don't know how other people are gonna think about me.
Whatever their legacies may or may not be, I have no doubt that they have been key players in forming the next phase of student media. Thank you for listening to the Union Weekly Insider. To listen to more episodes, check us out on iTunes or any of your favorite podcast apps. New episodes of this podcast drop every Wednesday during the semester. Our multimedia manager is Allison Meyer. Music in this episode is from the YouTube Audio Library. You can find issues of the Long Beach Union Weekly online at lbunion.com and on Medium. Go to medium.com and search Long Beach Union Weekly. Please follow us on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Union Weekly.